My sense is that the finance minister will try and do something to revive sentiment in the economy, because the economy is sliding and there is no clear sign that there is a turnaround in the immediate future. The monsoon itself is also not helping. Therefore, the finance minister has two tasks. One, of course, is to do something which actually helps the economy, and the other is to improve sentiment. Now, the most important thing running up to the budget is whether the Bimal Jalan committee actually returns the excess RBI capital, some part of it, to the government. And that is the one which can give a fair amount of elbow room for the government to do something. Now, there are two ways the government can use this capital. One is to recapitalize the public sector banks and sort of salvage the very poor credit situation in the market right now because of the NBFC problems. The other route is to use the money directly into putting it in the fiscal kitty and use the money to revive or stoke consumption or use it on infrastructure. So these are some of the ways in which the finance minister can actually try and help the economy. And therefore, I think the focus should be more on some kind of a stimulus plan for investors. Now, a stimulus plan, a part of it actually happened in the interim budget with tax cuts, farmer package, etc. But that's not been able to turn the economic ship around too much if the recent numbers, macro numbers, are anything to go by. And therefore, something has to be done, and the slide can be arrested in 2 or 3 ways. The really effective areas would be to thaw the credit markets, which is by announcing an NBFC package and recapitalizing public sector banks, both of which may happen. The other way to do it is to actually try and see if the fiscal deficit target can be relaxed a little bit from 3.4 to 3.5% even, making room for some kind of GST rationalization. That may not happen directly in the budget, but I think it is very important to stimulate demand, the bringing down and the rationalization of GST rates. So I think GST and the thawing of the credit markets, the financial markets, are the two most important areas which the finance minister can address, because we just don't have the fiscal space otherwise to do a massive fiscal stimulus package at this point in time, and the heavy lifting has to be done by monetary policy and the Reserve Bank of India. Well, the two that the market's waiting for closely, aside of the GST rate cuts or rationalization which I spoke about, one is of course the long-term capital gains tax. There is no basis for such an expectation, but somehow there seems to be a rumor that the long-term capital gains tax may be scrapped. Now, I don't know where it is coming from, but there is an expectation. There is another expectation that even if the long-term capital gains tax is not scrapped, it may be taken away for equity mutual funds, to give equity mutual funds some kind of an impetus, because the government also realizes that the main conduit of money into the stock market from the domestic fraternity has been through mutual funds, and it might want to stimulate that further. So that's one key expectation. The other one is the fear, I won't say rumor, but the fear because of the government's constrained fiscal position of some kind of a wealth tax in this budget, maybe a 1% kind of wealth tax. Now this, if it happens, will make some of the wealthy people in the market or the HNIs, fat cats, quite unhappy, and may lead to some kind of a knee-jerk reaction. So I think the two which the market's watching very closely is some kind of a wealth tax, the fear of that, and the hope on the other hand of LTCG going away, if not directly, then at least in mutual fund equities. My own sense is that if the government is prudent and savvy, then it will try and address the financial market and credit market problems first, because there is no better way at this point, given the government's strained fiscal situation, of stimulating the economy. Part of our economic problems stem from the fact that the credit markets have collapsed because of NBFC problems. Now the government might say, here is a package, liquidity package, and a calibrated package to slowly get NBFCs out of their mess. B, from the Bimal Jalan excess RBI capital, we give a large part of it to public sector banks, because they can pick up the slack of the NBFCs and stimulate credit and therefore bring about demand in the economy. So if I were to position my portfolio before the budget, I would keep this hope at the top and probably as a tactical move only, buy a kitty of public sector banks and some NBFCs and hope that the government addresses these issues, and therefore on budget day you get a neat rally to play. It might only be a rally to fade, but at least you might get a powerful tactical rally. The other sectors which one would want to be positioned in, other than the usual railway, water treatment, etc., you get it every time, but nothing material changes after the day of the budget. However, if there is some kind of a package drawn from the excess RBI capital, then there could be some pop in maybe a few select infrastructure companies, road and EPC companies particularly, and a handful of consumption companies, particularly rural focused consumption companies, because of any announcements in the budget. I cannot imagine, given such weak economic conditions, the finance minister will not make any announcement at all which will help or give the impression of stimulating the consumption and the infrastructure side of the economy. So if you had to tailor a portfolio, I would say PSU Bank, NBFC, maybe select road EPC, and a few rural economy consumption stocks. That would be a reasonable portfolio to go with. Well, I think in going into the budget, keeping in mind that there is a lot of turmoil globally, and with the US-Iran situation on a boil, generally FI money is not coming in and people are uncertain about the global mood. So any pre-budget portfolio or budget run-up portfolio, I think should actually be heavy on domestic consumption focus or domestic focus stocks and light on export focus stocks, which means, there could be a package for exporters, but IT services, given the global mood right now, the kind of news flow coming out of America, I would say if you wanted to construct a long short portfolio, I would be light or even short on IT stocks going into the budget. And there is a lot of murmur or rumor on the ground about a vacant land tax. If that comes about, forcing the hand of a lot of developers to unload some of the land parcels that they have not been able to build on, then that could pressurize some of the real estate stocks. Real estate generally is a sector which gets whacked a little bit, at least on the evidence of the last couple of budgets. So I would say these are the two sectors, IT and real estate, which one might go a little short on or underweight into the budget.